Hey, guys, welcome back to Benefit Genius. Today, we're exploring a hot topic that's been making waves: the idea of eliminating the income tax. It sounds dramatic, but there's more to it than sensational headlines. Over the next several minutes, I'll share 3 key takeaways from the Trump administration's proposals on this subject. We'll break down the history behind income taxes, look at how different types of income are taxed, and discuss what these changes could mean for everyday Americans. Before we dive in deeper, please take a moment to subscribe to Benefit Genius and hit that notification bell so you never miss our updates on Social Security, tax policies, and financial trends. Let's get started. Last week, Donald Trump mentioned that discussions were underway about eliminating the income tax, and soon after, videos and articles began claiming that the income tax would vanish completely. But what he really pointed out was the historical context. Before 1913, the government relied mostly on tariffs for revenue rather than income taxes. This perspective shows that our tax system has evolved over time and that the current proposals aim to rethink how we generate government revenue. Let's talk about the 3 major takeaways from these proposals. First, consider where our income tax comes from. Our system doesn't only tax wages. It includes a variety of income sources such as wages, capital gains, dividends, royalties, rents, and even passive business income. For example, your wages are taxed at federal income tax rates that range from 0 to 37%, and on top of that, you pay payroll taxes for Social Security and Medicare. Social Security taxes account for about 12.4% of your income, while Medicare taxes start at 2.9% and may increase for higher earners. Investment income, like long-term capital gains and qualified dividends, is taxed at lower rates, usually 0, 15, or 20%, compared to ordinary income. Understanding these different layers is key to grasping how changes might affect you. The second takeaway revolves around the hidden tax of inflation. While express taxes are clearly seen on your paycheck, inflation acts as a hidden tax by reducing the purchasing power of your money over time. For instance, during the COVID crisis, the dramatic increase in the money supply led to higher prices for goods and services. This hidden cost means that even if explicit tax rates are lowered, unchecked inflation can still erode your real income. That's why many advise diversifying your investments into assets like gold or Bitcoin to protect against inflation. The third takeaway focuses on tariffs as a potential tool in this tax proposal discussion. The idea is that if Congress can't lower income taxes, then one approach might be to rely more on tariffs for government revenue. Tariffs are taxes on imported goods, and historically, they have helped fund government operations. However, tariffs also have drawbacks. They can raise the cost of goods for consumers and potentially trigger trade disputes. The proposals suggest using tariffs as a negotiating tactic to force Congress to reconsider income tax levels. It's not a straightforward elimination of the income tax, but rather a strategic shift in how revenue is generated. Now, let's look at a few practical examples to put these ideas into perspective. Imagine you are a small business owner. If these proposals lead to lower explicit tax rates on wages and business income, your net income could increase, potentially spurring further investment and economic growth. However, if higher tariffs drive up the cost of imported materials, your overall expenses might also rise, offsetting some of the benefits. On the other hand, if most of your income comes from wages, a lower income tax rate could mean more money in your pocket each month, giving you greater financial flexibility. But remember, it's a balancing act. Lower explicit taxes might be accompanied by higher indirect costs like inflation or tariffs. Now, let me share a bit of historical context to clarify these proposals further. Before the modern income tax was introduced in 1913, the United States primarily funded the government through tariffs. This historical shift shows us that tax systems can and do change over time. The current proposals are, in part, a nod to that past, suggesting that a rebalancing of our revenue sources could be on the horizon. While some may take this as a sign that income taxes will be eliminated entirely, the reality is more nuanced. It's more about negotiating a lower tax burden by possibly shifting some of that burden onto other areas, such as tariffs and even addressing inflation. Speaking of inflation, let's dive a little deeper. Imagine inflation is running at 9%. As a borrower, you'd require an interest rate above 9% just to keep pace with rising prices. If policies succeed in lowering inflation to, say, 5%, then the necessary interest rate drops accordingly, making borrowing more affordable. Lower inflation leads to lower borrowing costs, benefiting homeowners, small business owners, and consumers in general. This is one of the key economic goals behind the proposals, lowering inflation to ultimately reduce the overall cost of borrowing. But here's where things get complicated. While the proposals might promise lower income taxes and a rebalancing of revenue sources, there are concerns about how these changes will be implemented. Critics argue that the promise to eliminate or drastically reduce the income tax may be more of a negotiating tactic than a genuine policy shift. It's designed to pressure Congress into extending favorable tax provisions and lowering explicit tax rates while potentially compensating with higher tariffs or other indirect costs. This means that while you might see a benefit in one area, there could be trade-offs in others. For instance, if tariffs are raised to make up for lower income tax revenue, the cost of imported goods might increase, potentially offsetting some of the savings from lower tax rates. Moreover, the proposals also tie into the expiration of certain provisions in the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. Some provisions that currently lower tax rates are set to expire, and if Congress does not extend them, your effective tax rate could increase significantly. For example, if your tax bracket jumps from 37% to nearly 40% due to these expiring provisions, the overall tax burden on individuals could rise over time. These detailed changes, while technical, can have a profound impact on your long-term financial planning. So, what does this mean for you? If you're planning for retirement or managing your personal finances, understanding these potential shifts is crucial. You may need to re-examine how your income is structured, whether it comes from wages, investments, or business income, and adjust your financial strategies accordingly. For entrepreneurs, this might mean exploring ways to reclassify certain types of income to benefit from lower tax rates. For regular wage earners, it could mean reevaluating your budget in anticipation of potential tax changes and preparing for the possibility of higher indirect costs due to inflation or increased tariffs. In practical terms, here are a few steps you can take right now. First, review your current financial situation and ensure that you understand how each type of income is taxed. Second, consider speaking with a tax professional who can provide personalized advice based on your specific circumstances. And third, stay informed by following reliable sources like Benefit Genius for regular updates on tax policies, economic trends, and financial planning strategies. Remember, while these proposals are generating a lot of excitement, they are still subject to political negotiations and economic realities. What you need to focus on is preparing for a range of outcomes. Some parts of the proposals might be implemented, while others could be altered or scaled back. It's a complex picture, but understanding the fundamentals of how your income is taxed, the role of tariffs, and the hidden tax of inflation will empower you to make smarter financial decisions. Before I wrap up, let's summarize the key points. The proposals discuss eliminating or reducing the income tax as a way to lower the overall tax burden on Americans. This idea is rooted in a historical perspective where tariffs were once the primary revenue source for the government. The system of taxation today is multifaceted, including wages, investment income, and payroll taxes, and is affected by both explicit tax rates and the hidden cost of inflation. Additionally, the use of tariffs as a negotiating tactic might help lower explicit income taxes, but could also lead to higher prices for imported goods. And finally, the expiration of certain tax provisions under the Tax Cut and Jobs Act could lead to increased tax rates if Congress does not act, emphasizing the need for proactive financial planning. I'd love to know what you think about these proposals. Do you believe that eliminating or reducing the income tax is a realistic possibility, or is it just a negotiation tactic that won't fundamentally change our tax landscape? Share your thoughts and any questions in the comments below. I really value your input. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to Benefit Genius and turn on notifications so you never miss another update on tax policies, financial trends, and retirement strategies. Thank you for watching. Remember, staying informed is the first step toward building a secure financial future. Take care, stay prepared, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. See you soon.